When my grandfather got a parking spot, that car was going to stay there as long as he possibly could see it from our living room window. He would check on it, see if anybody was parked near it. Oh, forget if he got it like in front of or in back of a Johnny pump. It wasn't materialistic, even though it was a guy living in the projects who loved his Cadillac. What?
I'm still processing. Johnny pump? You said 81. You mean, were you like alive in 1881? What? Who says Johnny pump?
Coffee Talk. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee Talk, where the coffee's strong and the talk is real. I got a solo episode for you guys today as we talk about a lot of things from my childhood and growing up Italian. I kind of got a really cool perspective from a former guest who was on the show, John Edward. I'm sure many of you remember that episode. It is my most watched episode so far on all my Coffee Talks. Guys, thank you so much. And I want to just say how much I loved, how much you guys got so much out of that episode. That's why I do these. And so that really made me happy. But I started this writing exercise because John and I were talking about a project that I am going to work on per his advice, or should I say vision, for something he sees me doing. And as I was writing, I was like transported back into time, back to 989. I grew up, like I told you guys, my mother was a single mom, left my dad when I was 1 year old, so I don't even remember them together, thank God. But they get along now, best friends, but I cannot have ever pictured growing up in a household where those two had to coexist. So I'm very grateful to every divorce attorney who worked on that for me in 1981. But I grew up a lot with my grandparents, and my grandfather was probably like at that age, like the love of my life, in the sense that like I just adored this man, and I adored him because he adored me. I was the only grandchild, which again is very weird, and he was surrounded by women. He was a big teddy bear. He loved my grandmother, who didn't love him back, Rose. He had two daughters, and then his only grandchild was a girl. So he was a girl dad in every sense of the word. And but he was, a Bronx Italian bookie, which is what he was. And so, he still had all the very neighborhood mentality qualities to him that I still have, right? They're not just passed down. Not just my color of my hair and my facial features are passed down. I think we take all of those things almost as heirlooms with us, the good and the bad and the ugly. And I was writing a story of a time when, and it wasn't just one time, but it was like growing up when I was very young, my formative years, because I lived in those projects with them till I was almost 6 years old. And when my grandfather got a parking spot, a parking spot in the Bronx in the early 80s outside of the projects was not a piece of asphalt. That was like prime real estate. And I just remember, like, if he got this parking spot, forget it. First of all, that car was no longer for transportation. Like, that car was going to stay there as long as he possibly could see it from our living room window. He would check on it, see if anybody was parked near it. Oh, forget if he got it like in front of or in back of a Johnny pump, a fire hydrant. That car wasn't moving because that meant nobody was either going to park in front of him or after him. I mean, the focus and like, and I got to be honest, it wasn't materialistic, even though it was a guy living in the projects who loved his Cadillac. What?
I'm still processing. Johnny pump? You said 81. You mean, were you like alive in 1881? Who says Johnny pump?
It's a fire hydrant.
No one has ever,
I get
Okay.
the comments right now. Everybody's being triggered
Okay.
in the comments right now. Everybody's writing Johnny Pump,
Okay,
Johnny Pump, Johnny Pump, Johnny Pump.
All right, we're gonna do a new poll. Forget the
poll.
sauce versus gravy. Now it's
Is
Johnny
it a fire
Pump
hydrant?
or fire hydrant.
Is it a fire hydrant or is it a Johnny Pump? Tell me in the comments.
This is
Keita
so
seems
weird.
very. It's not weird. It's borough talk. That's my grandfather would say Johnny Pump. I'm telling a story about Rudy Pagano. Rudy definitely called it a Johnny Pump. It's what I grew up hearing. And
Burrowing in 5 points, 1881.
I think I did the origin of Johnny Pump in a video.
Did you also have an ice box?
I did, but yeah, of course. But again, on the streets of the Bronx, if you got a parking spot in front or behind the fire hydrant Johnny Pump, whatever you want to call it, that was like a great space because that meant nobody could possibly hit your bumper from one side of you. And that's all people cared about in the Bronx. But it really was such a symbol of something. Like I used to joke and go, my arm could have, and my grandfather loved me more than maybe anybody. My arm could have had been like falling off before he would have like taken me to an emergency room if he had that parking spot. Like I would have had to been like, Grandpa, it's hanging by a ligament. And he would have been like, Jesu Cristo Maron, I don't want to have to move the car. But so, and it didn't make a difference if it was even, like he even had somebody, like once he got that parking spot, he would have friends pick him up and drop him off for work. Well, which was hanging out in a bar, taking action. Do you know taking action? Taking actions, he took action. Do you know take action? He doesn't. Anyway, so essentially my grandfather, when he retired, was just like I said, a bookie. It's the term everybody knows. And he hung out in a neighborhood bar, which, true story, the day of his funeral, I went to the bar right after. I was still all dressed up in my all black outfit and heels. And I asked for the stool that he sat on. And I was like, I want this stool. And the bar had actually moved locations on Morris Park Avenue. And my grandfather took that stool with him when they moved locations. So they said, well, the stool wasn't really ours to begin with. It was always his. And I still have that stool in my house now. Oh my God. I'll always have it. But that goes, I just loved this man who loved me so much. And so again, back to the parking spot, it would have to take everything for him to move it. And, there is so many symbols there. I know on one of the podcasts where I did the plastic couch theory, where I talked about, which by the way, that episode resonated with so many, but YouTube kind of, I don't know, they didn't share it as much. So if you haven't checked out the plastic couch theory, it's a separate solo episode from a few weeks ago. Check it out. It's kind of where I talk about how our grandparents and parents wrapped the couches in plastic to preserve, the couch for a special day, and how I think that that's a mentality. And now how we now today don't kind of enjoy things in the moment. That's the long and short of it, really. But I got to thinking about the parking spot because it's kind of almost the same thing. And when I think about it, my grandfather would spend time at that window. He would holler is another word. He would scream at somebody if they were like getting too close to the bumper when they were parking, like in his white tank, which we called a wife beater. And I can get canceled for saying that now. And his mudundas, which were his boxers, his uniform at home. He would put half of his body out the window screaming over that car. And I don't think I think it had to do with winning as much as it had to do with fear, kind of fear of losing something you've worked for, but and we made it was a big family joke because we would be like, God forbid, Grandpa gets a parking spot. We're not going to be able to leave the house for a while. What were you going to say?
It's now called a partner conflict shirt, but
is that the
yeah.
Swear to God.
partner conflict
No,
shirt?
you just made that up. I'm like, there's no way. I thought he was, oh, we got a comedian in the house. For those of you who don't know, Keita is also a comedian, not just a podcast producer. And he said the politically correct term for wife beater now is partner conflict, Tank. And, but yeah, I mean, that, I mean, the stories my mom and my aunt and I will tell about growing up in that house are nothing short of sheer comedy and trauma, right? Like the post-traumatic stress from growing up in an environment where like you couldn't even use a car for its purpose. You couldn't enjoy, things that were made to be enjoyed the way they were meant to be enjoyed. Like my mother told me that every time she would buy a new outfit, my grandmother would say to her, okay, wear that's for Christmas now. Or that's for, or it had to be for a special occasion. That she couldn't just wear the new outfit she bought that was nice on a regular day. And it's like, today was a great day. Today's a regular day. Today in LA, it's a Tuesday, I think. I don't remember. Today's been a special day. We had Billy Gardell in studio. We have Keita's sense of humor first thing this morning.
Let me interject again. If he couldn't find a spot, your grandfather, would he just be driving around indefinitely?
No, he could find a spot, but it wouldn't be a prime spot. It wasn't like right outside the building under the window where he could watch the car whenever he wanted to. That's the key thing. It wasn't just you couldn't find a parking spot. When he found a parking spot that was directly
was it like 20
facing
blocks away?
No, even if it was just down the block, he didn't like it. He wanted it directly where he could see it through the living room. He wanted to be able to see his car.
What kind of car was it?
He had different cars throughout the years. I do remember a Cadillac. I have a picture of me, and I'll look for it. Actually, it's in my car. I'm going to send it to Keita so he can insert it in this video so you guys can see it. He had different cars throughout his years. I do remember a Cadillac. And again, I don't even think it had to do with like, I think it just comes from a mentality. I don't think it's about like objectifying things because we didn't have anything. We had not. I'm saying the story is we grew up in the projects, like, which another thing, my grandparents moved there when they were younger, right? Because they were starting out and that's where everybody went. But then everybody started there and they usually save up and move out. My grandparents saved up. They just never moved out because they were still saving. They were still saving their money. They were still waiting. They could have bought a house. They could have bought a house. And I know that, I mean, my grandfather came from a house. His parents came here from Italy and they got a house. And him and my grandmother, and I don't want to say blame because that's a strong feeling when I use the word blame, but that was probably because of my grandmother's mentality. I don't think she ever felt safe or secure enough with my grandfather to spend money. And maybe it was because of his, life choices. My grandfather was also an alcoholic. But the biggest crime in this is that my grandmother saved all of her money so that she could leave it to us, never really allowing us to watch her enjoy it, or to really have us enjoy it. Because the truth is, when my grandmother got older and she got dementia, we used her money to get her private home attendants and to move into my mother's house. So the money she saved her whole life for us to enjoy, we didn't enjoy, because at the end of the day, we weren't going to just put her in a home. And so we used the money. My mom made the decision to move my grandmother into her home and hire somebody who could be with my grandmother 24 hours and to get the care she required in the most dignified way. So yeah, I mean, we can say she got to enjoy it in the sense that she got to be taken care of, but not when she even knew about it. So, those two lessons, and I'm going to talk about them more in the project I'm working on, John Edward inspired, but just really got me to thinking about that plastic couch theory and how it's just this like continued like sense of like I don't want to use the word trauma, but it's like this thing that holds us back because it's so. It's like I laugh about the parking spot. We joked about the parking spot, but like think about it when it pertains to life. It's like if we're talking about like how life's supposed to be a joyride, like you're never taking the wheel, and that's kind of what that car represents to me. It's kind of what my grandfather represents to me, and the same with my grandmother. They saved and they saved and they preserved. I don't know if I really ever saw the two of them enjoy. So it was a piggyback to the plastic couch theory. Let me know what you think of these episodes, guys, because like I said, between that episode and this one and a few others I'm going to have coming your way, it's going to be a project. So I really do want to know what you think. On that note, I hope you have a great week. All my shows, again, are listed at tarajokes.com. Guys, these are great conversations, but I assure you there's nothing better than being in a room and laughing together. I'm in Atlantic City and Stamford, Connecticut. Florida is on the map for my shows. I'm in Sanford, Florida, which is close to Orlando, on November 6th. November 9th, I'm going to be in Fort Lauderdale, Dania Beach area at the Fort Lauderdale Improv. And I just booked Tampa, February 6th and 7th. I have 3 shows in Tampa. Finally, 3 shows. I've come there for one-nighters only the last 2 years, and the club is giving me a weekend. So please, if you're in the Tampa area, come and see me. And of course, my big birthday bash at Off the Hook Comedy Club, Naples, Florida, March 6th through the 8th.
And don't forget to
Johnny
do the
Pump
vote.
or Fire
Johnny
Hydrant.
Splasher or Fire Hydrant.
Did you say Johnny Splasher? Johnny Pump or Fire Hydrant, guys. I'll be here educating Kita.
Coffee Talk.